Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Point. I am so glad to be back with you all on this wonderful Friday. And today we have a great episode planned. We're going to talk about the courage to get started. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after the introduction, and we're going to hop right into it. All right, welcome back, everybody. Before we get started, I want to say thank you to everybody who has been along this beginning journey with me as we began this podcast. It has been a learning experience. We've been growing, we've been preparing, and just trying to understand how to navigate this space, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this episode today titled The Courage to Get Started. You see, this is something that I have wanted to do for quite a while, and I kept putting it off. There were different things that I had going on, and I finally arrived at the conclusion, the place where I said, you know what, let's just get started. Let's just start recording some episodes. And it was my intention originally to release an episode every single Friday, something that I'm still committed to doing, but things happened and here we are. But we're still pressing forward. Now, I wanted to do this episode today for another reason as well, because this episode is the first time we are actually recording so that we can upload video content to our YouTube channel of the podcast. So those of you who are watching or listening rather on one of the podcast platforms, thank you. I appreciate your support there. But if you can, take a moment and head over to our YouTube channel at The Point with David Eadie so that you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and actually see the uploaded video content. So that being said, I wanted to talk about the courage to get started because I believe that there are things that many of you out there listening, watching, things that you have desired to do, that you dreamt about doing, you've seen yourself doing, and for whatever reason, you just haven't gotten started in it. Procrastination, life happens, maybe you don't feel equipped or adequate. I want to help you today by sharing with you 3 things that I believe hinder many individuals from getting started in things that they want to get started in, and hopefully it will encourage you to take that step to start today, even. Start making the preparation, the plans to actually bring to pass the things that are inside of you to do. And so with that being said, I want to talk about the fear of the unknown, the fear of failure, and the fear of success. We're going to deal with those. We're going to unpack those a little bit because I believe that these are things that hinder us from actually fulfilling the things that are inside of us to accomplish, to do, to fulfill. We'll start with number 1, the fear of the unknown. One of the things that hinders us when it comes down to the fear of the unknown is that uncertainty that brings about anxiety, right? The uncertainty that brings about anxiety, because when there are unknown elements in our lives, no matter how much we prepare for things, there is always something that we cannot prepare for. For an example, for those of you who desire to be married or who are married, you can attest to that no matter how much relationship advice you get, how many married couples you talk to, until you actually get married, you will find out that there are things that you cannot prepare for until you experience them. And so those fears have kept people out of wonderful relationships because they were afraid, well, what happens if I get into the relationship and this happens? There is uncertainty there. There is unknown. And what happens whenever there are unknowns, it causes us to feel as if we have a lack of control. Now, the word control oftentimes can be heard with a negative connotation. But when we talk of the lack of control, we're not talking about being controlling. We're talking about the feeling of helplessness, right? And whenever there is uncertainty that brings about anxiety, the anxiety is caused because there is a feeling of helplessness. I do not know what to fully prepare for, and therefore I feel helpless. These things often lead us to want to stay in what is familiar, right? So we dream about what we want to do, yet we stay in the place where we are comfortable in. This fear of the unknown can immobilize you from moving forward into the things that you desire to accomplish, right? The fear of the unknown. The second thing that I want to share with you is the fear of failure. Now, this fear of failure, it doesn't necessarily bring about anxiety as much as it brings about apprehension or a worry that what you are trying to accomplish will not have the expected result or outcome, right? So there's apprehension that what if I get started and it doesn't work? This will also immobilize you because instead of thinking about the benefits that could come from it, or even if it doesn't work, the fact that at least you tried, you are more worried about the judgment that comes from others if it doesn't work, right? And for me, that is why one of my favorite pieces of writing was by former President Theodore Roosevelt called The Man in the Arena, because it's not the critic who counts, right? One of the things that gets next to me, if you will, is when I always hear people talking about their haters, my haters this, my haters that. Listen, do not worry about the haters. Do not worry about your critics. Worry about, if you're going to worry, and I'm not saying you should worry, but if you're going to worry about living a life in which later on you will ask yourself the question, what if I had have tried? For me personally, I would rather step out there in this podcast arena, on this YouTube channel arena, and it not work. And at least I can say, you know what? I went for it. Than to later on in life say, you know what if I had have gone for it? Or excuse me, rather, what if I hadn't gone for it? And I'm thinking, well, what if I had? What if I had actually attempted? What could have come from it? Right? Now, there is apprehension, whenever, for me personally, the thought of, having people come and write in the comments, and people can be brutal on social media in the comment section. But you know what? It's worth the risk for me to step out here and say, you know what? There is some things that I have, or there are some things rather, that I have that I can share with the world that will edify, that will build, that will uplift, and hopefully encourage somebody even through this episode to get started. So the fear of failure. Lastly, there are the consequences, right? The fear of failure, it brings about an apprehension of the consequences. What can be the fallout? What if I invest in this opportunity or this thing that I want to do and it doesn't work, and then I have loss, right? And to that I say, every successful person has experienced loss. You're going to make some investments. You're going to do some things in which you're going to learn. And sometimes loss is a part of that learning. And so for me personally, whenever I do something, even if I get experience or knowledge out of it, then it is not a complete loss, right? So the only way there is a true failure is if you do not learn from it. So don't let failure be a motivation for you to not do. let it be a motivation for you to understand that even if I do not achieve the desired outcome, I still reaped the benefit of knowledge. Now, most people will readily identify with and understand the fear of failure and the fear of the unknown. But what many people will not so readily understand is the fear of success. So this actually is impactful for a lot of people, because when we talk about the fear of success, we are actually talking about the fear of change and the responsibilities that come along with actually achieving the goal. See, many people, when we talk about the fear of failure, we don't necessarily think about having to prepare. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? And then I go back to doing what I was doing or not doing before. But when we talk about the fear of success, what we are thinking about is, how is my life going to actually change, right? So when I think about becoming a pastor, it's not necessarily, well, what if I fail at being a pastor? It's the success, if you will, when I'm doing that with air quotes, because, sidebar, I think that sometimes what we equate as success is not actually what successful pastoring really is. That's a conversation for another time. A good episode. We'll have to come back and touch on that. The success of, if I actually have individuals that come to the church, and most pastors view success as having, a church that is growing, but then there's the expectations that are placed on you as now you are the person that people are looking to for spiritual guidance, for ministering, for counseling, for whatever it is. The expectations of success can actually be greater than the fear of our failure, right? And so the increased expectations could also lead to a change in identity, right? How do I now view myself, and how do others view me now that I'm in this successful place? When I've listened to individuals who have achieved, financial success, for example, oftentimes they will talk about how the dynamics have changed in their familial relationships based upon the success. Now the expectation is there that they are able to do what maybe they don't see themselves as able to do, right? So the change in identity is there. There is also the fear now of losing what you have gained. Now, here's a thing that we really need to think about, because when you don't have success, you do not fear losing what you do not have. But once you have gained, now you fear losing what you now have gained, because now you know now you understand the actual impact of that loss. That's how you can say that. Now you understand the actual impact of the loss, right? And so the fear of losing can be a great motivator to say, you know what? I'd rather not have than have and have it taken away from. And I know that can sound counterintuitive, but there are many people that will not gain because they don't want to actually fear disappointment. Now, there are many people, for an example, when it comes down to relationship, who would say, I'd rather not love. I'd rather not be in that place of vulnerability than to risk losing that love or having my heart broken. So the fear of success can lead to the fear of losing what you have and having your expectations broken. So the fear of the unknown, the fear of failure, and the fear of success are three not these are not comprehensive, but they are 3 things that can prohibit you from actually taking and going forward in the thing that you desire to do. Now, what I want to do before we end this episode is I want to share with you some tips that you can do to actually, get over these fears or mitigate these fears so that you can step out there and have the courage to get started. So the first thing I want to share with somebody is this. You don't have to go big or go home, right? Let me say that again, because you hear that often. Go big or go home. You do not have to go big or go home. You can start small, right? And by starting small, you're able to give yourself measurable goals, right? You are able to give yourself an opportunity to access what you are doing, right? Assess what you are doing, right? You are actually giving yourselves the ability to assess what you are doing. By starting small, you can look at your accomplishments or failures, if you will, and learn from them. Start small, right? You are not doing this to impress. You're doing this to grow and understand and gain knowledge, right? So when you start small, set clear goals, right? What is it that you want to accomplish, right? Is it if you want to start a podcast or a YouTube channel, right? And maybe my first goal is, let me just record a 10-minute short video or even less. Do a 1-minute reel, right? In which you are just starting small. You are sharing something. You're getting comfortable, right? By sharing, by speaking. You say, brother, you say, you know what? That's not what I want to do. I desire to write a book. Again, start small. Start with a short story. Start with a blog. Start small. Don't think that you have to accomplish it all in one setting. Start small, set clear goals. Also, don't be afraid to seek support, right? Get yourself surrounded by informative people. I can't stress this enough. Surround yourself by informative people. Before I, really started stepping out in this, I started asking people. My good friend, Shalandon Walker, I was just on his podcast last week. And before then, I was able to talk to him, to pick his brain, to ask him questions, right? And he really took the time. Shout out to Shalandon and the Social Remedy podcast. I can't wait to continue to collaborate with you as well. But he actually took the time to say, listen, do this, get this, look at this. Another one, my good friend, Raymond Stewart, he talked to me about lighting and equipment and just all types of things that I would need to get started in what I'm currently doing right now. So Raymond, Vision Merge Productions, thank you for all of your support and helping us to get where we are right now. Now, is this the end result? Is this the end goal? Absolutely not. But we got started. So the next thing I want you to do is embrace failure. You are going to fail. You're going to mess up. You're going to make some mistakes. You're going to say the wrong thing. You're going to do the wrong thing. You're going to look the wrong way. But again, look at each one of your setbacks as an opportunity to learn and to grow. Learn from it, grow from it, move forward. Do not stop trying. Do not stop trying. You can keep moving forward. And in order to do that, you have to visualize yourself actually being in the place that you are trying to go. What does it look like, right? When we talked about the fear of success, one of the things that hinders us in the fear of success is we are worried about meeting the expectations, right? So ask yourself the question, what does it look like? How is my life going to look when I get to where I want to go, right? You have to take the time to prepare, to write it out. Get yourself a journal and really look at all of the things that you want to accomplish and ask yourself the question, what is the one thing that I can do to get started today? So this was not going to be a long episode. I just wanted to come on because I'm excited about this journey that I am personally getting started on. I'm excited about the Point podcast. I'm excited about finishing up my doctoral degree, hopefully on next year. And I'm excited for you all to come along on that journey with me. I'm excited that we are starting and having our first live recorded video today for our YouTube channel, which, you know what? I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. But today, right here, right now, you are witnessing me saying, you know what? I don't want to just hold everything that God has placed inside of me on the inside. I want to get started. I want to share with you what God has given me, the insight, the knowledge, the experience, the education, so that together we can go on this journey. Because part of what we're going to do in this channel, we're going to navigate the intersection of faith and culture. We're going to tackle some of the difficult topics so that we can understand what it looks like to really have a biblical Christocentric worldview in a world that is going further and further and further away from Christ. And also a church that has become so traditional and at times secular that it no longer looks like the Christ of the Bible. And where does that leave us? So hopefully we'll take this journey together. And I want you to send in topics, send in your questions, write them in the comment section, things that you want to talk about, guests that we can invite. I plan on having guests. There are a couple of people that I've already spoken to about being guests on the show. So I'm very excited to get started on this journey. And hopefully some of you listening right now says, you know what? I'm going to do that too. Today is the day that I am going to have the courage to get started. Thank you for staying with us today for this episode of The Point. And I will be back with you on next Friday with a brand new episode. Listen, before we end this episode, I want to just let you know that we have a partnership with Kingdom and Will over at kingdomandwill.com. If you go to kingdomandwill.com, you can either click the link in the description, or you can go to the website and type in the word Fit Pastor, PhitPastor, in your checkout. You can get some good merch. I got this shirt. There's other merchandise. They have all types of gear. Listen, you type in Fit Pastor, or you click the link in the description, and you get a nice discount over at kingdomandwill.com. You will not be disappointed. It's great quality clothing. I love it. Also, for those of you who are supporters of the ministry, go over to victorypointma.com, or you can download the app on Android and iOS and head over to the Victory Shop and check out some of the merch there in the Victory Shop. And pretty soon, look for some gear from The Point. We're going to have t-shirts and hats and everything else as we're building this out. Thank you again for staying with us for another episode of The Point, and we'll see you next Friday. God bless.